Nowadays, guys, man, if you're white, you have to get permission to talk about meritocracy, DEI, affirmative action. And again, you can't talk about it if you're white and you don't have permission from people like Stephen A. Smith. They tend to get very upset when that kind of stuff is mentioned by people, especially on the right, like Tucker Carlson. Watch.
Not on politics, not on sports, but on race. Conversation I heard recently between Chris Cuomo of News Nation and conservative commentator Tucker Carlson. The interview was a wide-ranging conversation that touched on a number of topics, including quotas and DEI. Don't believe me? Tucker Carlson aired it first, and then obviously News Nation aired a snippet of it. Take a look at what I'm about to show you.
It became obvious that the meritocracy was producing an incredibly lopsided society, and that freaked people out, and it felt unfair to them. The meritocracy produces an outcome that you may not be ready for, actually, because it's rooted in nature, and you can't change it. So these are super complicated questions, but I know that a system that rewards people on the basis of race and punishes others on the basis of race creates hatred and division.
I was very uncomfortable hearing that from Tucker Carlson. Let me be very, very clear. Meritocracy created a lopsided environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how you took that, but let me tell you how I take it. We live in a white power structure society. White men run this country, if not this world. And what Tucker Carlson basically said there was, if you're saying a meritocracy, that is what existed, and when that existed before the likes of affirmative action, before civil rights legislation, before DEI, et cetera, if you're saying a meritocracy created a lopsided society, and that lopsided society was in the favor of white folks, then essentially what you're saying is white folks got their stuff on merit and everybody else, maybe not so much. That's how I took it. That's what I heard. What did y'all hear? What y'all hear? That's what I heard. That's what I heard. That is why I was so uncomfortable speaking to Chris Cuomo last night, because I was a guest on his show in the immediate aftermath of about 7 to 8 minutes of Chris Cuomo talking to Tucker Carlson. I had not...
Steve, man, grow up. Grow up. Put your big boy pants on and grow up. You know, Lord, man, people can't have conversation about anything without anything real, without hurting somebody's feelings. And again, man, I'm sorry that it did yours, but if it did, that means you're growing. It means you're growing. You know, again, conversation very often is not about making people feel good. It's about telling the truth, being honest about things. And again, this is the only kind of conversation that is going to advance anything at all. Is again to talk about things like this. And again, I understand that that maybe Tucker Carlson's not the person you want to see up there talking about this. But guess what? He is. And instead of hating him for it, he's hating the man because the man is daring to talk about a subject, and he's right. How wrong, by the way. I get the reason why white society dominates, the Western white world dominates, is because they're more advanced. I mean, why can't we really be honest about that? Again, they're not producing a whole lot of inventions, whatever, out of Africa. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Again, they tend to produce a lot of people, again, that live the same way, tribes or whatever, that they have lived for hundreds of years. Again, I mean, not all, but again, I'm not saying black people aren't as good. It's just they tend to come from the Western white culture. Again, they tend to have more of that mindset, and again, they compete. They go after things. They invent things. They build companies. They do whatever. They become doctors, lawyers. They tend to come from the white Western world. Now, the sheer reason they exist tells you right there there's no white supremacy. There's no, they can do what they want to do if they want to do it bad enough. Well, I mean, look at yourself. The reason why you have the job you have is not because of DEI. Again, it's meritocracy. You worked hard to get where you're at. I guarantee it. And I guarantee you would say, I did. And you're the right man for the job you have. But with that being said, we don't artificially put people ahead of other people that don't belong ahead. Again, if they want to do something, they will do it. But they have to be left to their own accord to do it. Again, you're messing things up. You're messing with the hand of God when you mess with that kind of stuff. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. And stop expecting others to do it in order to make you feel more comfortable so you can have a nice, comfortable conversation about race. Again, any true conversation is going to be uncomfortable. So, Stephen A., I recommend, man, you put your big boy pants on and stop whining and crying about whatever Tucker said.
Subject, let me air for you what I said to Chris Cuomo last night in the immediate aftermath of hearing what Tucker Carlson had to say. Check it out. He was dismissive of the racial construct notion that you brought to his attention, not realizing how palpable and how insulting, dare I say, that would come across to so many African Americans in this country. The fact of the matter is that covering the world of sports, think about it from this perspective. They were telling folks, they were telling the black man he couldn't play the quarterback position. You were telling the black man he couldn't be a head coach. You were telling the black man that he couldn't be a leader of men. Let's not get started with what you were telling the black women. And over the course of time, we've seen how exceptional people from all races are and can be, and we see how deficient others can be. Then you also have to take into account the kind of society that we lived in. Remember, I got left back in the 4th grade because I had a 1st grade reading level, okay? And I had undiagnosed dyslexia that I ultimately had to overcome. What was one of the challenges of overcoming it? I was in the streets all the time because my mother had to work 2 jobs, because my father wasn't handling his business appropriately. And as a result, there was a weight on the shoulders of my entire family. And so as a result, sometimes you found yourself running the streets. Sometimes you found yourself being preoccupied with things you shouldn't be preoccupied with. And as a result, that was taking up your time instead of you hitting the books and doing what you have to do. He didn't mention any of those kind of things. He didn't mention any of the potential obstacles that could lie in wait. He simply wanted to lean on race, talking to the potential intelligence or lack thereof of a race of people and what have you. And I just said to myself, wow, he really, really seems a bit detached from reality. And I was being nice. I was being very, very nice. I could have said some other things, but I don't know him like that. Don't want to accuse the brother of anything. But the bottom line is I was very uncomfortable listening to him.
again, in today's world, we see things like, you don't know what it's like to be black. You have no idea. You're not black. Again, you can only see things from being white. And it's true the other way around as well. Again, if you grew up black, you missed growing up white. You don't see things as well, as clear as you believe you do. Again, talking about struggles when you were younger, you said dyslexia or whatever. Again, I get that. I was not dyslexic, but I have my own learning problems. And I was held back in the first grade. So again, man, I'm right there with you. I understand. And when I was 16, I was kicked out of high school because my behavior was so bad. Because there were so many different things going on in the house. And, but again, I'm white. I'm privileged. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. It's not that cut and dry. Again, my first job, my first full-time job, because, again, I had no high school diploma or anything, no experience. I worked at a plant packaging fiber, putting fiber, cotton fiber, into 50-pound bags from a big 2,000-pound crate. And I'd use an ice scoop and put them in 50-pound bags. Then I would heat seal them, let the air out, put a sticker over the hole, and put them on a pallet and stretch wrap them, put that into the warehouse, and start over again. And I did that every single day for a year and a half. And I was so damn tired. I was dead tired when I got off work. And again, man, there were people that they would quit after a day, not even a full day. It was a rough job. But I was grateful to have a job. I was thankful. And again, my father wouldn't have let me, I was 17 years old, do it to let me stay at the house if I didn't contribute. And he's right. He was right. But again, I'm white. I'm white. Look, I went back and I got my high school diploma. Then I went to college and I graduated from college in my 30s and whole 9 yards. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, there are white people that are very rough, very bad. And again, when you sit there and you say things like you said about Tucker and, again, him kind of having the audacity to say what he said, he was speaking the truth. And again, the truth is very difficult for a lot of people to hear. And I know it myself, man, it's been difficult for me to hear. Very difficult at times. But I had to hear it so I could move forward in life. And again, so do you. But it's just so funny to me. And I think the whole thing escapes you. That you're working at ESPN, making all kinds of money. And you're talking about how hard live people have it. And they can't get ahead, and they can't be given. They're not given jobs and whatever. While you're sitting there making a shit ton of money, I think it really truly escapes you. You're living this story in your head. and you believe whatever you believe, and you have a hard time seeing reality. But anyways, all I'm trying to say, Stephen A., is that maybe, just maybe, people aren't so different. And maybe, just maybe, people like Tucker Carlson, again, who's had his own struggles and things throughout life, again, should be allowed to speak the truth regardless of whether you think a white person should be allowed to speak that or not. Guys, man, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks. You son of a.